So what is love? What does it mean to be loving? Well, we're given the two great commandments to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. The Lord also says, if you love me, keep my commandments. He also says, love one another as I have loved you. Love your neighbor as yourself. He also gives us the golden rule to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. So living according to those principles is what a life of love is. But we aren't loving by accident or by dumb luck. We just don't fall into being someone who is a loving person. We actually have to strive towards it or work towards it. So we have to practice it. And we turn away from non-loving behaviors and attitudes towards being loving and kind and generous. And the point of that is that we're preparing ourselves for a heavenly life. Someone who's fit for heaven. Someone who knows what heaven is like, and we've practiced living according to it, and we've learned from that as well. So we need to prepare and be ready for that. For when the bridegroom or the Lord comes, we have oil in our lamps. We have love in our hearts. We have lived that way and not just thought about it. We have lamps, but no oil. We have to have lamps with oil in them. So picture this. A man is lying in his bed and he's fast asleep. And a robber breaks in to the house. He robs him of his possessions and valuables. And just before leaving, he begins to hit him over the head with a baseball bat. And the man wakes up to this barrage of blows, and then he goes unconscious. And when he comes to, what's his first thought going to be? If only I had been awake. If I had been awake, I could have done something. That is a parable of our spiritual lives. If we're asleep spiritually, we can be hurt, like the man in the parable. The robber is like our negative emotions that come in and steal away our positive things that we're working towards, steal away what we're striving to do spiritually to be loving and kind. And those negative emotions come in uninvited, like anger and contempt, or hate, envy, jealousy, pride, lust, those sorts of things. And they rob us of the peace of mind, our attempts at spiritual growth, and they beat us up spiritually. So maybe you're in a relationship and you're trying to get close, you want to have a special date with someone, and when you're on the date, you have an argument because someone said something and it hurt the other person's feelings, and you ended up being more disconnected than you were before. Or maybe you're excited to go on a family vacation, and things don't go right, they don't go according to plan, and everything starts to deteriorate, and your happy time becomes a miserable time instead. So where do those negative emotions come from? Where we get angry or disconnected from the person that we love, or we get upset about what's happening with our family vacation. They are from spirits in hell who wish to destroy us, not just toy with us, but they really would love to destroy us if possible. So they want to lull us to sleep so we forget our principles and make bad decisions, make bad choices, and become reactionary instead of purposeful about what we're trying to do. And if we're not awake and aware, we can be beaten up. We can be attacked in that way. We are not the source of those negative emotions. They're flowing into us, but if we're not aware of that, they can take over. So thinking about sleep, we all need sleep, right? That's an important thing. Helps our body to be healthy, helps us to function. But when it comes to spirituality, sleep is the enemy. What it pictures is being unaware, being not mindful, not alert to what's going on inside of us. We're acting from our lower self instead of from our higher spiritual principles. And when we listen to our bodily wants only, we make poor choices instead of listening from messages from the Lord, messages from above. So the first step of our spiritual journey is really to wake up, to examine ourselves and say, am I asleep spiritually? Am I acting the way I want to act? Am I doing what I want to be doing? It's interesting, at the very beginning of the Bible, very beginning of the Word, there's that creation story. And it sort of sets the tone for what the rest of the Word is about, where the Lord is creating this world, but He's creating, what's picturing is creating this world within us. And the first thing that happens to a person is let there be light. That's the first thing that occurs, is that waking up to there's some truth outside of myself that's greater than my own understanding. And those truths are from the Lord's Word. So we need to examine ourselves and see what our issues are in light of the truth of the Word. And we need those truths. And it begins with that acknowledgement that we may be asleep. So what if you went to a doctor to get a physical, and she just sat there in a chair asleep during your appointment? How effective would that be? Maybe no point in it, right? Same thing is true for us. If we're just asleep, sleepwalking through this life, we aren't going to get well. We're not going to get the help we need. And the Lord pleads with us many times to watch, to be alert. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when he's with the disciples, he came and he found them sleeping and said to Peter, "Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptations. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is weak." And then the Lord went away again, and he came back, and they were asleep again. He says, "Watch therefore, for you do not know the hour that your Lord is coming." He says again in the Gospel of Luke, "Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find them watching. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." He says it many times over in other Gospels too. Watch, be wakeful. So the Lord is trying to send us a clear message. So imagine you come home and your spouse is sitting there on the couch. The house is a mess. The kids are all on screens when you agreed that we wouldn't have screen time except a little bit here and there. And you blow up, like you're so upset that this is happening. You have no idea. You didn't check to see what your partner had gone through, what was going on. You don't find out. You start yelling, and then you start throwing things at each other, and then it gets physical, and the police are called in, and you're hauled off. And you mutter to yourself, "I don't know what came over me. I don't know what happened. How did that happen?" What happened is the person was asleep spiritually. They let anger or frustration or self-pity or fear, self-righteousness sneak in and take control. They weren't curious about what was going on. They just let that emotion come in and decide for them how they're going to react. So they were robbed of love, peace of mind, perhaps their marriage even. But when you're in a state of sleep, you're in a very different state. In physical sleep, we're unaware of what's going on with our body. In spiritual sleep, same thing. We're unaware of spiritual ideas. We're unaware of kindness. All we're focused on is what's going on in our physical selves. What does it want? So how often do we do things that we wish we hadn't? It's almost like we did something unconsciously. Like, why did I do that? How did I let that happen? But part of being awake spiritually is being aware of our own weaknesses. Like if you're fighting high blood pressure, right, and you fill your house with salty potato chips, it's like, that's just not a good idea, right? The temptation is there. Why would you do that? If you're struggling with lust, don't click the link on your computer that's sent to you or the email that's sent that's like, "Hey, check this out." Or if you're struggling with anxiety, don't watch a lot of news, right? There's things we can do to help us if we're aware of what it is that we're dealing with. So being asleep can destroy our relationships. We can act out in anger. We can act lustfully or selfishly. We can destroy the things that we actually value because we're not paying attention. I don't think that anybody wakes up one day and says, I think I will be unfaithful today. I think maybe some interest is sparked in someone else. They see them, and they start to spend more time and attention thinking about them, thinking maybe about imagining life with what that person would be like, and it slowly worms its way in till it starts to seem okay, like even a good idea or even right. So we need to be aware of these things from the beginning rather than wait till it's too late and we've already justified them in our minds. Sort of been lulled to sleep by our desires. There's that story about Samson and Delilah. He has this long hair, he has his strength, and she over and over lulls him to sleep where she's trying to get the answer to where his great strength lies. And finally, he tells her the truth, and the Philistines come and shave his locks, and then he is weak as any other person. We lose our spiritual strength if we do not fight that battle. So we need to be alert to what triggers us. And the truth is, it takes no effort at all to act from our natural or our lower self. It's pretty automatic. It's just what we're sort of do by default. We do it without thinking. But to act from our higher self requires that we act purposefully. We talked about last week compelling ourselves. We have to compel ourselves to wake up as well. Compel ourselves to be aware of what's going on. What are our well thought out motives and principles that we want to act from rather than what happens by default? So there's tools we can use when a negative emotion takes hold of us. We can divide our attention. We do it all the time. So right now you're sitting in this chair in church. You may be listening to what I'm saying. You may be thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. You may be thinking about the hike that you should have been on instead of being here today, and oh, that would have been so nice. But we can do that. We can be in two places at once. Part of us is here, part of us is somewhere else. We can say the Lord's Prayer at nighttime and be totally thinking of something else, like, did I say the prayer? I don't remember, right? The point is we can divide our attention constructively because we do have the ability to do that. When we get caught up in anger or some kind of negative emotion, it feels like it controls all of us, all of our attention. So we can divide it. People talk about multitasking, and they say that no one can multitask successfully or can do it well because you don't have all of your attention on things, and you fail at several things at once instead of failing at one thing at once. What it makes the point is that it weakens our attention when we try to do two things at once. And we can use that to our advantage. Instead of being totally caught up in our anger, totally caught up in lust, we can start to divide our attention on something else because that emotion, again, wants 100% of our attention. You could pinch yourself, like, oh, I can do that. You could go on a walk. You could sing a song. You could exercise. You could rub your hand. Do something that takes some of your attention away from the negative emotion so we don't get fully absorbed into it. Some people count to 10, right? They go, I'm going to count to 10 just as a way to divide my attention and take away some of the energy from that negativity. And what we're allowing ourselves to do is calmly observe the situation and start to make different choices instead of just being swept away by it. Instead of having our mind be flooded by the ideas that want us to keep in that negative state, we can create a division, create a window for the light of heaven to shine in. And the thing we can do as well is we have the ability to change our thinking. If you're caught up in a negative emotion, your mind wants to marry itself to it. So it's going to find all kinds of reasons to justify that and become solidified that way. If you have a positive feeling, your mind wants to grab positive thoughts to marry to that as well. So you can either have a heavenly marriage, good feelings, good thoughts, or you can have an infernal marriage of negative feelings and negative thoughts. But we can break that negative marriage by thinking of positive things. And if you think about positive things, true things enough, eventually your affection has to switch. So someone cuts you off in traffic. Anyone here get upset when that happens? Right, okay. So you feel angry and thoughts flood your mind about how horrible this person is and what inconsiderate they are and so forth. And suddenly you notice, wow, I am wishing that this person would be tortured or killed. It's incredible the kinds of things that can flow in, which aren't coming from you, but we can connect them to the feeling we're having and they can become married, but they don't have to. It's important to recognize that we have the ability to change that. So if you're in an angry state or a negative state, have you ever had that happen where you're just upset and you're feeling upset and your mind is upset and then your phone rings? And you answer the phone, hello. Yes, I'm great. How are you? How did you do that? It just proves to me, without a doubt, we have the ability to do that if we choose to do it. But we have to be aware that we have that ability. So we're talking about awareness, being watchful, being alert, being awake. But how? Well, it's important to have truths in our mind and reflect on them. Truths are symbols for light. It helps to turn the lights on in our head when we're in a dark place, to have truths that we meditate on or we think about. And the question I want to ask each of us to think about is, Do I have time in my schedule that's built into my life, built into my schedule, where I focus on learning truths or illuminating my mind so that I'm ready for when negativity arises? Do I spend time reflecting on them? The writings actually say that nothing can be learned without reflection. And I think we're so busy nowadays, if there's a moment of space, what do? Well, we pull out our phone and we check and see if we got any likes on our Facebook, or see if anyone emailed us, or what the weather is, even though we already know because we're outside. Whatever it is, we're uncomfortable with that moment of space, but can we use that space to reflect? There's a lot of beautiful teachings that we can be aware of and we can reflect on that can help us. For example, the Lord is a God of love, completely. And He's urging and pressing to be received. He's trying to knock on the door and have us open it up. The awareness that there are spirits with us, good and evil, who are trying to influence us. And as the heavenly doctrines say, if at the moment that evil flowed in, you would reflect, notice that word reflect that it is from the evil spirits with you. As soon as you thought this, the angels would avert and reject that. So we have something come in, just reflect, I don't want that. That's from hell. And the angels, you don't have to do it. The angels are with you, take it away. It's that awareness that we have a choice about how we're going to react. Whenever we say, you make me so mad to somebody else, we're just lying, because that's not true. They don't make you mad. We let the anger come in. They might have done something you don't like, but they don't have the ability to make you mad. We have the ability to choose it. I used to do this to my kids, which would make them mad, is they would say, you make me so mad. And I say, well, if I can make you so mad, then I choose to make you happy. I'm like, boom. It's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, what comes out of the mouth. It's how we react to things. There's awareness that there's life after death, that we are preparing in this world for that life. There's an awareness we can have that it's not what we've done, but we would continue to do that determines who we are spiritually. So wake up to that fact and pay attention to what we do as a habit, because those are the habits that we'll take with us. The awareness that God is present and leading us, and no matter what we're going through, it can lead us towards better states of good, no matter how difficult it may seem. And the reason the Lord created us is that there might be a heaven from the human race. He created us for that purpose. So that's where the energy is flowing, awareness of that. And truth alone isn't enough. We need to act on it. We have to purposely do something every day to keep aware. Heavenly doctrines say one who learns truths and lives according to them is like one who is awakened out of sleep and is alert. Think about professional athletes. Do they, let's say we're talking about basketball playoff time, right? So do they just show up right before the game and just start playing? No, they have a routine every day that they work, they practice, so that they're ready for the game as it's going to happen. So the question is, what is your routine? Do you have a spiritual routine? Do you know where you're headed? Have you chosen the path you want to be on? Do you pray every day and ask the Lord for help to help you along that path? Do you read the Word every day to get light from the Lord and connect with Him? There's several stories in the Gospels about the disciples crossing the lake and the storm arises. And Jesus is in the boat, but he's asleep. And the storm is rising. So they wake him up, and he can calm the storm. The Lord is always in the boat with us. The appearance is that he's asleep. The truth is, we're asleep to his presence. So we have to wake ourselves up and be aware of the Lord's presence so he can help us. So what do we do? Do you have someone that you can check in with, that you're accountable to about your spiritual life? Or are you just flying solo, hoping you'll be okay? Some people go to 12-step meetings when they're suffering from a particular addiction. Sometimes people go every day because they know they need to do that. Some people go whenever they need to go. Maybe it's weekly. Do we purposely do acts of kindness each day? And one of the things that we can think about to keep us on track is there's so many things available nowadays that we can listen to. There's podcasts everywhere. There's sermon recaps, there's sermons online, there's all kinds of things that we can do to keep our minds aware. So we don't really have excuses about not doing it, but what will we do is the question. What is our daily bread that we ask the Lord for? Last week we talked about gathering manna. And it can feel like we are in a wilderness sometimes, like the children of Israel were for a long time. But each day they needed to wake up and gather the manna, and it was enough to sustain them. So we need to do that as well. Each day wake up and pay attention to the blessings, gather them in so they can strengthen us. Our choice is to do nothing and be controlled by the negative emotions when they come in, or we can wake up and be alert to those emotions and thoughts and use the power that the Lord gives us to redirect. We can wake up and ask the Lord to change what's going on, make us awake and aware. The story of the 10 bridesmaids and lamps, it says, "Stay awake and be prepared, because you do not know the day or the hour of my return." In the scripture we said as we opened the word this morning, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." Lord is there. If you hear my voice and you open the door, I can come in and dine with you and you with me. So keep that image in your mind. The Lord is there. He wants to connect with us, but we have to be aware and pay attention and hear it and open the door. In a moment, you are invited to partake of the Lord's Holy Supper. And just a reminder that you're all invited to partake of that if you'd like. There's bread on the larger plate. The smaller plate has some gluten-free bread if you can't have the regular bread. And there's wine in the individual cups and common cup. In the center of the individual cup tray is some grape juice if you can't have wine as well. But the Lord talks about this as our spiritual food. The bread pictures the love, His love for us, and the love we can have for one another is pictured by the wine, and the spiritual truth as well. And it is our spiritual food. One of the things we're invited to do is to think about this as a sacrament of repentance. If there's something that we're working on that we would like the Lord's strength and help with, is come forward and ask the Lord as you're partaking of that bread and wine, please strengthen me, please nourish me, and help me to move forward in this way. So we will prepare the elements and invite you in just a moment to come forward.